Uh-oh. Okay, we'll start with this. Chantelle Cameron slams Katie Taylor after pointless WBC delay. London. Chantelle Cameron had expected to start this week as WBC Junior Welterweight Champion. The WBC ordered undisputed champion Katie Taylor to defend against its interim title holder Cameron and instructed both sides to reach a deal by August 28th to avoid a purse bid hearing. But with zero discussions between the sides about the matchup, Cameron expected Taylor to vacate the green and gold strap as she plots a return to the ring next year. Instead, Taylor's team requested a last-minute extension on the negotiation period, and the WBC obliged them with September 18th set as the new date. I don't expect Chantelle Cameron to be happy with this, but at the same time, when you're as decorated a fighter as a Katie Taylor, and when you've done for the sport what she's done, there are perks. You are going to get special consideration. And September 18th isn't that far off anyway. What is that really, 2 or 3 weeks? Chantelle should look at that as a good sign, an encouraging omen that perhaps Katie is considering that third fight if she's asked for more time. Otherwise, she would have vacated the title already if she had zero intention to fight her again. Cameron, who won the interim title in July of last year and has racked up 2 successful defenses since, was mystified with the request given the lack of communication with Taylor and her promoter Eddie Hearn's suggestion that the Irish icon might even retire. Taylor and Cameron, of course, have history given their 2 memorable fights in 2023. Cameron successfully defended her 140-pound straps in their first clash with a majority decision in Dublin. 6 months and 5 days later, Taylor had her revenge by edging a majority decision after 10 more action-packed rounds in the Irish capital. It has at times been a bitter rivalry, and now Cameron has accused the 39-year-old of purposely jeopardizing her career by what she perceives as a pointless delay. She doesn't want to fight with me, Cameron told The Ring, and her team don't want the fight either. I feel like this is all just a ploy and a game. A ploy and a game? To what end? It's crazy because if you don't want to fight me, that's absolutely fair enough. But let's just both go on our own paths. There's no need for this delay. It's pointless. I think it's a game, and it shows you people's character. Why would you do that to someone else's career? Fair enough, you have rivalries and stuff, but you shouldn't try and jeopardize someone else's career when you know you're gonna vacate anyway. Yeah, Cameron's been singing this tune for years, that Katie will never fight me, she'll never fight me, her team doesn't want her to fight me, and they ended up fighting 2 times. I thought I was gonna be elevated to full champion, but my manager phoned me to tell me the bad news. I thought he was joking, but he was deadly serious. I thought he would be telling me I was champion and that I could make my first defense, but instead it was that I just have to wait even longer. Cameron's last outing came on the undercard of Taylor's victory over Amanda Serrano this past July at MSG, a unanimous decision win over Jessica Kamara. It was Cameron's first fight of her new deal with MVP, but she says the holdup with WBC is preventing her from moving on to her next fight. She added, "It's really tricky because we can't plan ahead. We're stuck in the mud. All I know is I'm gonna be boxing for the world title, but there can't be any real negotiations with any opponents because we don't know what will happen with the belt."
Well, you'll know soon enough. September 18th isn't far away.
So now I've got a few more weeks of waiting, but I can handle that. I've waited long enough already. During an interview with The Ring this week, Hearn suggested that instead of a trilogy fight with Taylor and Cameron, the 34-year-old from Northampton should have an all-British derby with former welterweight champion Sandy Ryan, who's going to be boxing this weekend. Chantelle does not agree. "It's not a fight I would welcome," she said. "Sandy is coming off 2 losses to Michaela Mayer. What does beating her do for me? Eddie has always talked about that fight, but give me Katie Taylor first.
He already did that, where you said he wouldn't.
And then I'll give him what he wants by fighting Ryan. For the time being, Sandy's not on my radar." So after Chantelle Cameron boxes Katie Taylor 2 times and loses the rematch, instead of sticking around and having that Sandy Ryan fight, which was right there for her, she decided to leave Matchroom for Queensbury to box a bunch of girls nobody knows.
A bunch of girls that are even lesser known than Sandy Ryan.
And now she's with MVP. She's waiting for Katie. Hearn floats the idea that while you wait, maybe you can fight Sandy.
I'm starting to think Chantelle Cameron doesn't fancy that fight. She's never wanted that fight. She's never liked it.
Over to Katie Taylor, who Eddie Hearn says, "I don't think Katie's going to be dictated to. I don't see her fighting until next spring or summer. So that means based on the current situation, she will have to vacate."
Katie is 39 years old now. The idea that she's gonna let the rest of this year go by to come back either next spring or next summer is courting disaster. You're not gonna be younger when next year gets here, not gonna be faster, fresher. If you want to fight again, you need to do it now.
And if you drop that WBC title and you don't fight Chantelle for a 3rd time, who makes sense for next year besides Chantelle? That's the only fighter left you have any unfinished business with.
There's nobody else.
If Katie needs a little bit more time to make a decision, I'm not against that. But the idea of her returning next year at 40? I'd rather see her retire than do that. Over to another interesting story. Jesse Bam Rodriguez welcomes free agency as Matchroom deal nears end. Jesse Bam Rodriguez couldn't be entering free agency at a better time. The Ring WBC and WBO Super Flyweight champion is entering the final fight of his promotional deal with Matchroom Boxing as he prepares for his unification fight against WBA champion Fernando Martinez on November 22nd in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. The big thing with Bam is that this is going to be our last fight under Matchroom. Robert Garcia, Rodriguez's trainer, manager, and career-long confidant, told The Ring, "So the doors are going to be open for Bam. It's an important issue. We are going to have to be smart with what we are going to do next. Bam is very happy with Matchroom, and so am I, but we definitely have to make sure that Bam is in a position where he calls the shots from now on. I think the smartest thing they can do is sign an extension with Matchroom because the other promotional outfits out there, the ones based in America, they ain't doing too hot."
In the search for greener pastures, careful that you don't step in the mud or worse, step in dog shit.
Garcia emphasized that he likes Rodriguez's chances of stopping Martinez and moving on to collect the last remaining belt at Superfly against newly crowned IBF champion Wilibaldo Perez. He'd become the undisputed king of the Super Flyweight division before moving up to 118 pounds, and in the 4-belt era, I don't think there's ever been an undisputed champion, not at Superfly, so Bam would be making history not just for himself, but for the division.
Matchroom chief Eddie Hearn is responsible for building Rodriguez, 22-0 with 15 KOs, into one of the sport's most elite fighters, signing the 25-year-old southpaw from San Antonio after he bounced around Top Rank, PBC, and 360 Promotions shows as just an up-and-comer. Matchroom announced the signing of Rodriguez in January of 2022, 3 years ago, right before he scored a unanimous decision win against Carlos Cuadras as a late replacement opponent in a title fight. The meteoric rise followed right after, as Rodriguez reeled off wins against Sorvin Visai, Sonny Edwards, Gallo Estrada, and more recently, champion Fumalele Kafu. Along the way, Rodriguez also became unified champion, not just at Superfly, but at flyweight as well. In October, a week before Rodriguez beat Pedro Guevara, Matchroom announced they had extended his promotional deal, making him a leading force in its United States efforts alongside Jaron Ennis. Rodriguez had also been linked to Taken Promotions throughout his career, and the affiliation with the highly respected Akihiko Honda has prevented him from facing Chocolatito Gonzalez and Junto Nakatani. Rodriguez is the ring's number 6 ranked pound-for-pound fighter. And so here it is. I don't see a real reason, a good one, for Bam to leave Matchroom for free agency. Because with Matchroom in your corner, they can negotiate those in-between fights, the not-so-big ones, the layups that you might need to keep you active throughout the calendar year.
And not just keep you active, but keep you paid. And paid well, better than most other super flyweights and bantamweights, as many of them don't have a major promotional outfit behind them like a Matchroom. You're gonna leave Matchroom to go to who? Go to Top Rank? Go to the PBC? Go to Golden Boy? Matchroom offers the strength and stability that neither the PBC or Top Rank have right now. The PBC barely do any shows anymore, and the ones they do are behind a paywall. Top Rank hasn't announced who their new broadcast partner is going to be. Matchroom's on more stable ground than they are. And Golden Boy, you want to be a Golden Boy fighter?
You know, Matchroom offers you not just a steady schedule, but a trajectory, an aim, a goal. Whereas a lot of Golden Boy fighters, they fight just to fight, aimlessly, in no particular direction. I mean, what is the end game for Virgil Ortiz, for Ryan Garcia? What are they even fighting for?
And don't think for a second that Golden Boy is going to pay you better than Matchroom pays you. So when I see them courting the idea of free agency, Robert Garcia is not stupid. He knows where the money is. If they're doing it, it's as a leverage tactic to maybe get a bigger guaranteed minimum from Matchroom.
And Matchroom should pay it. If Bam holds up his end of the bargain and not just beats Puma Martinez, but Willibaldo Perez as well, becomes undisputed champion, that does set a precedent to give him more money.
I think it's a leverage tactic if it's anything, because the other promotional outfits out there aren't actually doing better than Matchroom, and just free agency and being a free agent, who's going to do your fights? What, you're relying on Turkey El Al-Sheikh's shows to keep you active? He's only going to put you in the big ones, you know.
Not the in-between fights. So say you've got a mandatory who isn't that well known, there's no guarantee Turkey pays for that. Whereas staying with Matchroom, they'll do that fight. And staying with Matchroom doesn't stop you from boxing on Turkey shows. You still can. You're about to.
Turkey's been fantastic for the sport of boxing in the short time that he's been here, but make no mistake, he's not a promoter the way that Eddie Hearn is a promoter. You know, once Eddie Hearn gets going, it's hard to shut him up. You need a guy like that in your corner. So if I had to guess, given all of Robert Garcia's years of experience and understanding boxing, understanding the landscape, he knows, he has to, that the home for Bam, the best one, is on Matchroom, and it is on DAZN. So if this is anything, it's a leverage tactic to maybe get Bam a bigger guaranteed purse,
a bigger guaranteed minimum if they do sign an extension with Matchroom. The silver lining is, I could definitely see Matchroom giving them one.
Boots just signed an extension with Matchroom, so I wouldn't be surprised if Bam does the same thing.
Netflix, listen up. When this man get the knockout, because he going to knock out Canelo Alvarez. When he get the knockout, don't forget Miss Deborah. Get that shimmy dance. Get that dance from Miss Deborah. Get the camera, get the family on camera, yo, so we can document this, because it's going to be one of the greatest performances you've ever witnessed in the sport of boxing by Terrence Bud Crawford. Knocking out somebody that's been in the ring with some of the heaviest punchers in the game. Heaviest puncher. Triple G is legendary. Didn't put a dent in Canelo. Now just watch what Crawford does to his behind. Yeah, y'all talking about thudding power from Canelo? What about shot power and timing like a Manny Pacquiao has? Yeah, y'all don't know nothing about there. It's a huge difference. That sharp power where it sting you for a minute momentarily, and that follow-up shot comes sweeping and knock your behind out. That's Bud Crawford. And you know he can turn it on when he want to turn it on. He can turn it off and he can turn it on. Canelo ain't got that in him. He ain't got that in him. Yeah, he ain't knocked nobody out in 4 years. 4 years, he ain't knocked nobody out. You expect him to go in there and knock out the best fighter in the world, the most skillful fighter in the world, because you think he's small? Hell no. It's not about the size of the dog. It's about the size of the fight in the dog. Don't ever forget that. Anyways, that's my time, and I'm out.
I believe that counts as promotion towards the fight. Many of Timothy Bradley's hot takes on his YouTube channel here in the YTBC get a lot of attention, and for better or worse, that lends itself to the fight's profile.
Gets the fans arguing.
Gets people talking, which is everything you want ahead of a big fight. Now, as far as what he said, Terence Crawford knocking out Canelo Alvarez, who's never been knocked out. He's never even been knocked down. That definitely qualifies as a hot take. I just don't see it, Tim, because you said it yourself. Canelo has been in there with some of the biggest punchers in the sport, and they didn't put a dent in him. They didn't knock him out. They didn't even knock him down. So how is Terence at 37 going at 38 years old, new to this weight, a year removed from his last fight? How's he supposed to perform this miracle? Is that what you're expecting? A miracle? It would have to be, because Israel Madrimov went the distance with him, and Israel is no Canelo Alvarez by any stretch of the imagination. Or would you have us believe that the only reason Israel went the distance with Terence is because Terence wanted him to?
Make it make sense, Tim. The guy who struggled a bit with Israel and couldn't take him out is gonna take out Canelo? How? Why?
Why would the guy who couldn't knock out Israel knock out Canelo? It simply doesn't make sense. You talk about Canelo having not knocked anybody out in about 4 years, but look at the size of the guys that he's fighting. Bigger guys can hold a bigger shot. And Terence is not as big as those guys. And those guys, even though Canelo didn't knock them out, he knocked a good number of them down. Jaime Munguia, Edgar Berlanga,
Jermell Charlo, John Ryder, 2 times.
The only guy he didn't knock down was William Skull, but that's because William spent so much of the fight so far on the outside, it wasn't a fight, it was a track meet. Is that how Terence intends to fight this fight? Because if he does, he'll lose, for the same reason William did. I'm not telling you that Terence isn't a great fighter, a decorated fighter. He is all those things and more. I'm telling you that so is Canelo, but he's bigger, and he's used to fighting bigger fighters.
A lot more of the Crawford faction of fans have become vocal as of late, ever since that story broke that Canelo was sparring Jaron Ennis in preparation for this fight, and it looks like nervousness to me. And these assertions that Tim is making, I don't know if he's trying to convince us of this or himself.
You know, sometimes guys try to psych themselves up for a fight. I think Tim is psyching himself up in a manner of speaking. He wants to believe that Terence can do this, but nothing on paper and nothing logical suggests that Terence will stop Canelo.
Terence may have stopped every welterweight that they put in front of him, but this is not welterweight. And Terence, he may have stopped every welterweight they put in front of him, but your knockout streak, that ended over a year ago.
In the build-up of the Madrimov fight, I said that this is an audition of sorts for a potential Canelo Alvarez fight. It'll be encouraging towards your case if you can at least stop Israel, because if you can't, it's slim pickings.
So here we are.